So let's talk about the Roman Empire. You know, that big unsustainable blob of an empire that dominated the Western world for a few hundred years. Really, if there was ever an empire that lasted as long as it did in spite of itself, I'm unaware of it. It's hard to imagine another empire existing for so long, given how many problems the Roman Empire actually had. Now, the Roman Empire started, like most empires do, with a civil war and then a military coup. The head of that coup? Gaius Octavian, soon to be known as Augustus. Now, Augustus did plenty of good things, but we're not here to talk about those things today. No, we're here to talk about how things spiraled out of control 300 years later. So why did I bring up Augustus? Because Augustus set up all the problems that were going to happen during his own reign. See, the Roman Empire was a monarchy, and that means the stability of your government revolves around the viability of your line. Now, a lot has been said about the fall of the Roman Empire over the years, with reasons ranging from barbarians to lack of manpower to poor leadership. But all of those explain the symptoms, not the cause. The cause? The inability to create a smooth succession. See, Augustus created the empire, and as such built the foundation of his state upon military conquest. The problem? That meant to be emperor, you had to also lead troops. The bigger problem? People start thinking that anyone who leads troops can then be emperor. Now, I already said that the Roman Empire was a monarchy, and that meant it worked so long as emperors had children or family members that could take over when they died. Augustus's line lasted to 5, and then Nero went a little mad, and despite his longer reign, ended up being deposed. Then there was a civil war, and the Flavian dynasty came to power and numbered at 3. Then the Senate chose someone, and that started the Nerva-Antonine dynasty that numbered at 7. Then you had another civil war, with 5 guys declaring themselves emperor in the same year, followed by the Severan dynasty, who numbered at 6 emperors. So for those of you that are keeping count, in the first 300 years, 20 men held the title of Roman Emperor. That's not bad, all things considering. Then, in the year 235, all hell broke loose. What do I mean? Well, between the years of 235 and 284, 26 men became emperor. Yes, 26. 26 different guys became emperor in 49 years. That's a lot of guys becoming emperor. In fact, one guy was only emperor for 21 days. In fact, of the 26 guys, 9 of them were in power for less than 1 year. Actually, only 2 of them managed to reign for more than 5 years. The first one being Valerian, who reigned for 7 years before being captured in battle and dying in captivity. The second being Galenius, who reigned for 15 years before being murdered by his own commanders. So good on you, Galenius, you managed to kind of hold it all together for a little bit before it all fell apart again. Speaking of falling apart, the Roman Empire divided itself a whole lot during this period. And like most things, it goes back to that whole founding your state on the need to conquer things problem. See, Augustus left a legacy of military conquest. That meant that every emperor needed to win in battle, or he wasn't seen as legitimate. This, of course, is why the empire's borders kept expanding, despite the fact that they had no real way of actually defending borders like that. But wait, what about those barbarians everyone talks about? Didn't they kill the empire? Well, yes and no. Really, the problem was that pressures elsewhere made groups migrate west. Some of those groups were peaceful, and the Romans were happy to use them. And some of those groups were hostile, which meant that the Romans had to fight them. Now, the Roman emperor was the head of the Roman military, much like how the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief. And since there's only one emperor, that meant he had to somehow be present on all of these battlefields. As you can imagine, it's impossible to be both present in Germany to fight the Germans, and in the Middle East to fight the Parthians at the same time. As such, legions would just declare whoever was general there at the time emperor, with the idea that doing so would benefit them being the legion. And it's not like you could just say, oh, sorry about that whole becoming emperor thing, my bad, and go on as normal once it happened either. Once you've been proclaimed emperor, now the guy who is emperor has to kill you before you kill him. So what you ended up with was a lot of constant infighting, due to the fact that the troops kept declaring the generals emperors, wherever they were. Not to mention that there were a few cases where rumors said the current emperor had died, and someone just proclaimed himself emperor thinking the other guy was dead. Only, he wasn't. Yay, more civil war! So yeah, it should be pretty clear at this point that the line of succession looked less like a family tree, and more like a child's scribble. Now eventually, a guy named Diocletian had a great idea to split the empire in two, with an emperor in both the east and the west, with each having their own junior emperors, who would then be groomed to become the emperor when the emperor of the east or the west died. Until some Christian guy named Constantine decided to cause another civil war to reunify it, and then found a city after himself. Then he died, causing yet another bout of civil wars. You see what I mean when I said that the Roman Empire lasted as long as it did in spite of itself? I mean, really, any other nation or political entity would have long since given up on the whole stable unification thing at this point. Not Rome, though. They just keep on trucking. And they did, too, because Constantine was emperor in 306, and the empire in the west didn't fall until 476, 170 years later. So remember, it doesn't matter how bad things are. If you keep at it, you'll probably succeed. Just make sure that you get your affairs in order before someone kills you and takes your throne and starts a civil war.